guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zay, and today I am going to be sharing 27 books for my 27th birthday. The day that this video goes up is my birthday, and I wanted to share 27 books that I absolutely love. I have seen other people do this video and it just looks so much fun, and it's just such a great excuse to just sit down and talk about your favorite books. These are obviously not all of my favorites, but these are all books that I just love wholeheartedly, and they mean a lot to me for different reasons, and so obviously I want to share and talk about them today. So also putting together this list, I was like, this is a lot of books. We're getting there. But no, it's fun. I'm looking forward to what the new year will hold for me, and I'm just excited for what 27 will bring. So let's just get into it before I get all sappy and like emo about my birthday. I'm not going to talk about them for too long, or else this video would just be really long, and I don't want to edit it that long of a video. So we're just gonna get into these. If you want more information about what these are about, I recommend just going on Goodreads and checking them out, or you can ask me. But with that being said, let's just get through these books. What I want to talk about is the Boys of Tommen series, actually by Chloe Walsh. I specifically love Keeping 13. This book is just everything to me, but this series, including Saving 6, I have not read Redeeming 6 yet, but I love the Boys of Tommen series so much. I read Binding 13 and I really liked it, but I think that Keeping 13 is where the story really comes together and where the romance really comes together as well. Everything just works out and is just such a well thought out, really beautiful and provoking read. And it's a series that is so loved, and once you read it, if you connect with it, it's not for everybody, then you will understand why these characters and why this world means so much to people. And this book really just blew me away, and I love these characters. I still think about them. They have left, honestly, an impression on my heart, and Chloe Walsh has just written like a masterpiece. But this series means so much to me. If you're gonna take any recommendation from me, read the Boys of Tommen series if you can handle the content. This is very heavy series. Check your trigger warnings. It is a heavy book and a heavy series that deals with a lot of different topics and things that are really hard and difficult to read about. But if you like to read about people who really go through the fire but make it out, then you need to read this series. It is amazing, and honestly just like one of the best romances that I've ever read. On a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. So first and foremost, I love Hannah so much. Like, I adore her, but this book is one of my favorites ever. I love this romance. I am so, like, I miss Win and Bo so much, and I want to reread this so bad. This is just such a special book, and it's a rarity to get a book like this nowadays, to get a romance book like this. The journey that they go on is just really beautiful, and it's like the focus of this book is about Win and Bo. Like, that's it. There really isn't a lot of plot and things like that. The focus is our characters and their romance and like their growth as people and their growth as characters. And what I really like about this book, and I think ultimately the reason why this surprise pregnancy book worked for me, is because we have these characters that have things that they're working on and working through together before their baby gets here. And I really like that element of this book. Like, we don't get to actually see Win and Bo as parents, you know, that happen. You don't really get to see that, but we get to see them kind of go on this journey of being pregnant. And, you know, these two people are complete strangers, but they fall in love together, and they both have different things that they're working on and that they have to kind of work through before the baby gets here. And I really liked the way that Hannah wrote that, and I think it was very intentional. But I love this book so much, and Win and Bo just mean so much to me. Like, they're my babies, and this is seriously like gonna be one of my favorite books of the year, but also just like one of my favorite books of all time. So next we have Always Only You by Chloe Leese. I do own this book, but I love the new cover so much. I think it is so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. So I just wanted to use this one. But I read this book during the pandemic, and I had never read anything by this author, but a lot of people had gotten arcs and they were raving about this book on Instagram. Frankie and Ren, I love them. You know, this is where it all started for me with my love for Chloe Leese, and I just really haven't looked back. But this book was just cozy and feel good, and it has a lot of different tropes, a lot of different fun things that I think Chloe Leese did a really good job of kind of putting everything together in this book. But I just thought that the romance was so sweet and just really beautiful and fun. And I often, like I said, they're characters that I just absolutely adore and that I think about all the time. And this is where my love for Chloe Leese started. And the Bergman Brothers series is a series that is very special to me. It's one of my favorite romance series of all time. But I know a lot of people love this book for different reasons, and this is just a book that has stayed with me, and it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. So next we have Love Scammed by Risley Adams. I actually own this one too, but it's somewhere. But this is actually a novella. This one has shocked me that I love it so much and that I consider it to be one of my favorite books ever. Who knew that a novella could like have a long-lasting kind of effect on me like that? But this book is about two people who basically think they're going on vacation with other people, but they're friends, and then the hero's cousin actually sets them up together. Love scammed into going on this trip together, and because their best friend and the hero's cousin thinks that they would be a really good match. And this book was just so like fun. It was fun and it was hot and it was like a fantasy. I think it's just such a fun fantasy. I mean, I want my friends to love scam me, but I just remember having so much fun with this book. But also there's a lot of like emotion and depth to this little novella. Our heroine did come from an abusive relationship, and so our hero loves her. He is obsessed with her, he adores her, and he definitely understands like why they were set up together. And I don't know, this little novella has like just left this lasting impression on me that I really wasn't expecting. But Love Scammed is literally one of my favorite books of all time. I love it, and it is one that I highly recommend. It's a great one to read for the summer. It's actually a Valentine's novella. But I love this one so much. This is like a must read, and it's quick and easy and fast, but it is so good. Then we have the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey. Just like everyone else, I love this series. I love this book so much. It is, I've never read anything like the Mind F series, even to this day. And, you know, there's a lot of like different serial killer romances out there, but this one has just obviously set the bar very high for it. But I think what this one has going for it is it has this really like amazing storyline and this romance, this forbidden, angsty romance. And then there's a lot of darkness to this book. And Lana Myers is just one of my favorite heroines of all time. What she has gone through just broke my heart. And as you read, and I think the author did a really good job of kind of building up to kind of us learning more about her and her background and why she is a serial killer and like why she's doing the things that she's doing. I read it in like the novella format, and so I thought that that was really well done. We just kind of build up to the darkness and really build up to kind of the big finale, and that was really well done. The romance is honestly like not even my favorite part of the book. I just love Lana and I'm cheering her on, and I'm like, get them, girl, get them. But this book is just a lot of fun. This was all the rage last year, and I love it, and could not include this book on this list. We have Funny Feelings by Duet. Oh my gosh, this book. I read this book last year, and like, I think a couple months, no, I can't remember if I read this when it came out or just a little bit after it came out. But this is one of those books that I read at like the perfect time. Like I really needed a book like this. And when I read it, I was just like, yeah, this is exactly what I've been needing and what I've been craving for. This has everything that like I love. I love a single dad, romance. This is friends to lovers. And This book, though, to me, is just one of the best, or is the best, friends to lovers romance ever. You know, with a lot of friends to lovers romance, the biggest issue is, oh, we can't be together for XYZ. And that is true, but I really felt like in this one that I really understood why they were really holding back their feelings. You know, Farley is a comedian and she ends up working with Meyer. Meyer he used to be a comedian, but he has a daughter and he's really just been focusing on taking care of his daughter as a single dad, as a single parent. And so he ends up being her manager. And Farley does not have a lot of support. It's just her and her dad. And so her dad does not really support her being a comedian. And so she really doesn't have that like support system. And Meyer really supports her and he really thinks that she's so talented and that she can really go the distance. But coming from somebody who has such a successful career, like Meyer. And so, you know, Farley has very deep feelings for him, but she is nervous about that. But also she's very close with his daughter. His daughter is deaf and she's able to communicate with her. She knows ASL. And so they have that really special connection, and Meyer doesn't want his daughter to kind of lose Farley in her life because that's a very important relationship that they have, to lose that as well. And so, and then also he's like, I am like a single dad. I'm like settled down, and she has such a career, an amazing career ahead of her, and I don't want to stop her. I don't want to kind of be like the thing that's in the way with that. And she's younger. We do have a little bit of we have an age gap, which is not a big deal, but he's like, I don't want her to have to settle down at such a young age. Like, she's still young and has such a promising career, and I don't want to hold her back. And so we do get some angst and some push and pull with that, but these two are forced to kind of fake date because Farley is going to be going on this, having this really amazing opportunity with some other comedians that can really kind of like put her career, give her another step in her career, but they want to kind of, you know, build some kind of anticipation for her and get some good PR. So they're like, why don't you fake date Meyer? And so I love this book. It's just beautiful and emotional, but it's like sweet and tender. There's really some beautiful like little moments in here that are so romantic, and it just shows how much these two love each other and care about each other. And these two are just meant to be, written on the stars. I love this book so much. We have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I used to say that this was my favorite book of all time. I don't know if I would still consider it to be like my favorite book of all time, but I read this book back in like 2018, and this is one of those books where I read it and I like forgot that it was fake, and I just really got lost in the story. And I think I literally Googled Evelyn Hugo. Like, I was just convinced that she's real. And of course she's was inspired by many different historical figures, but she just felt like such a real character. But this was my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I haven't read a book by her in a long time. Her tennis book that came out last year just wasn't my cup of tea, but I really do love her and her books. She's written some of my favorite books, but this book in particular is just one that really stands out to me, and I do consider it to be one of my favorites. This book is just wild, and just, it takes you on such an amazing journey. And the way that Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote Evelyn Hugo, like, she's a very like loved character and a hated character. Like, I never know how to feel about her, and I just felt so like confused about my feelings toward her from the very beginning to the very end. And I mean, in this book, Evelyn Hugo is basically like telling her story. She's very well known for being this Hollywood starlet, but also she has been married 7 times, and like, it's just such a mystery of her life and her marriages. And really, there's way more than meets the eye with her and her story. And so she's telling her story, and she's very like particular about who she wants to tell her story to. I just really liked how everything unfolded, and like at the end of the book, you really don't know how to feel about Evelyn Hugo. And I haven't really read too many characters like that. I like that Evelyn Hugo as a female character is like, this is who I am, and like me or hate me, this is who I am, and this is my story. And I really like that. I just like female characters like that, and I like that Taylor Jenkins Reid wasn't afraid to write a character like Evelyn Hugo. But I love this book. I've read it twice. I want to reread it soon. I haven't like read it since 2021, and I love it. Love it. I will say when I read it the second time, I had a different feeling about the romance, but I love this book. This is supposed to be a movie or like a mini series. I think it was supposed to be with Freeform, which was weird, not a good choice. So I think this would make a really great limited series. So I am just waiting for this one. It would be really, really good, but I love this book. And if you have not read it, you definitely should read this book. It is so interesting. Just like read it for the journey. So next we have The Full Tilt Duet by Emma Scott. So I actually heard about this duet for a long time, and then I finally read it a few years ago. And this is one of those, I have like an interesting reading experience, a vivid memory of me. After I finished the first book, I just went in my closet and I cried. Just like boohoo cried. And I have not cried like that about a book since then. I have cried, I'm a crier, but like not to the point of like boohoo crying. I'm pretty sure this is my first Emma Scott, and I think Emma Scott is so underrated. Like she truly writes some really beautiful romances that are very emotional, but like just like very beautiful, and this is just no exception. I absolutely love this duet. It's one of my favorites of all time, and I was just so, like, I knew what was going to happen at the end of this first book, and yet it just still evoked such a strong emotion out of me, and I didn't know how to feel about going into the second book, but Emma Scott pulled it off, and she did such a fantastic job. There's just really nothing that compares to The Full Tilt Duet, and I loved it. Absolutely beautiful. And she, like I said, I didn't know how to feel about going into the second book, but the way that she wrote it, it just, I was okay with everything that happened and how the story ended. And I was just, it's just one of those that's really good. And if you like, I think this is like a backlist book that is just so good that you have to read it and just experience it for yourself. But highly recommend The Full Tilt Duet if you were like, haven't read this one yet, or if you're just like nervous to read it. It hurts, but it hurts really, really good. So I actually have to refilm the rest of this video. I've already finished it, but I had lipstick all over my teeth, and I'm sorry. There's like a little bit of lipstick on some of the other parts of the video, but I had to come back and refilm this. So let's get into it. I'm sorry for like the little bit of lipstick that I had on my teeth. It got progressively worse. So here we are. All right, so let's get back to it. So I absolutely love this book. This series is not for everybody. It really doesn't even have a plot, to be honest. You have to really be invested in the characters. And I think most importantly, what I love the most about this is Jessa Hastings' writing. Her writing is very lyrical. She's very descriptive, to the point to where you're like, maybe this could have been cut out, but it's fine. Very descriptive, and this book is also very unique because it's not really a romance. We don't really know how this book is going to end, but it's categorized as romance because it's kind of hard to put it anywhere else. But I think that Jessa Hastings is more so talking about love, having these conversations about love and what it means to love somebody. And hopefully we get to see some characters grow and change and heal. But I absolutely love this book. I love this series. It definitely gives Gossip Girl vibes. It gives Blair and Chuck vibes. But I do think that Magnolia and BJ have a little bit of a deeper relationship. I just think that their connection is very interesting. And as you read the series, you understand the foundation that Jessa Hastings was putting down in this book. What they have is a lot more deeper. So when we say their relationship is very toxic, it's true, but there really is more to this couple. They definitely have a lot of depth. They've been through a lot of things, and I love them. I really do. They're my babies. So I love this series. It's so unique, and I just got completely lost in this world and in this writing, and I truly just couldn't get enough of this story in this series. Next we have the Antiheroes in Love Duet by Gianna Darling. So this is one of my favorite mafia books ever, this duet, and also one of my favorite duets. I do really enjoy duets when I feel like it's necessary, and I love this couple. I love Dante and Elena. Gianna Darling is, to me, a very romantic writer. Her writing is just so beautiful, very like flowery, and I really like getting lost into her books. She just has a way of pulling me into her stories. And Dante and Elena, they're one of my favorite couples, power couples. They go through so much. The way that Dante loves Elena and the way that Elena loves Dante is so beautiful. And Elena is a fellow Ice Queen. I love Ice Queen heroines. And Elena doesn't really, she gets to experience this epic love, and someone really accepts her for who she truly is, and she feels loved and protected. And I absolutely love Elena and Dante. They're just my favorites, and this duet is just epic, and everything that I love about Gianna Darling, but also just everything that I love about romance and mafia romances. Next I have my darling dear Stacy Reid. So I do like historical romances. I don't read a lot of them these days. Maybe after the new season of Bridgerton comes out, maybe I'll like get back into historical romances, but I'm just a mood reader, so I have to go by my mood. But I do miss reading historical romances because historical romances are just so romantic. It gives me all of the feelings as to why I read romance, just seeing two people connect and grow and love each other. And I think historical romance gives me that fairy tale kind of love that I love to read about, which is why I love this story so much, because it is inspired by the Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I love. Anything that's like Beauty and the Beast retelling, I'm gonna read it. This is one of my favorites. I just think that this story is absolutely beautiful, and the love that these two people have for each other is just so heart-wrenching. It just like, I love this book, and I think Stacy Reid did such a fantastic job. I would say that this is a top tier Beauty and the Beast retelling. Next, I have Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. So you're gonna see Kennedy Ryan on this list again because she's my favorite romance author, and she's my favorite author. She's the queen. I just love her. I got to meet her this year for the first time, and truly, I cried. It's so embarrassing, but I cried. But really, Kennedy Ryan's stories just mean so much to me, and to me they really challenge the negative stereotypes people have about romance books. But specifically, this book is this my favorite Kennedy Ryan? I think it is. This is second chance romance between two people who used to be married. Now they're divorced. They've been divorced for quite a while now. They have 2 kids together. They have a business together, a restaurant, and we get to see them reconnect. We get to see these two people heal and just really find love again with each other. And they never stop loving each other, but we get to see them kind of fall back in love with each other. They've always loved each other, but the love that they've had has always been there, but we see them fall back in love, truly fall in love together again. And I love this story. But also Kennedy Ryan, her writing is just unmatched. Truly, the world can be on fire if I'm reading a Kennedy Ryan book. I don't know what's happening around me, because I truly just, there's nothing else that matters other than Kennedy Ryan's masterpiece. And she just really, like I said, challenges those stereotypes about romance. Her romances are raw, they're real, they feel real, the people feel real, the circumstances feel real, and her books are just matched. You're not gonna find another romance author like Kennedy Ryan. Next, we have Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. So this was my first Talia Hibbert book. I kept hearing about Talia Hibbert, and I picked up this book, and oh my gosh, this book right here, it's the reason why I don't really care, or don't, in my opinion, I do read lighthearted books. I don't consider them all to be rom-coms necessarily, but true rom-com, I can't really read. Why? Because Talia Hibbert has written the most perfect rom-coms. And there's just nothing that compares to Talia Hibbert's humor, and her romances are so sweet and funny and sexy and heartwarming. And all of her books are about Black women, you know, getting loved on. I mean, that's what I want to read. And she always has some kind of representation, from her heroines' body types to who they are as people, and, you know, disability representation and chronic illness representation, from the heroines to our heroes as well, to just all the people in her romances. And I just really like how Talia Hibbert goes about writing romance, because everyone deserves to see themselves in a romance book. And I think that she does a really good job of making a lot of people feel represented. And that is something that we need in all forms of media. And that's one of the reasons why I love Talia Hibbert so much. She just tells these really hilarious, funny stories that are so heartwarming, but so unique, because it's Talia Hibbert, and she just has such a wonderful way of writing these stories, unlike anybody else. So next I have Beach Read by Emily Henry. So this book is one of my favorites. It's a controversial book because a lot of people don't think that this is a romance book. And I understand. I think that the reason why people think this is because of the writing style. Emily Henry's writing style, to me, is a little bit more lit fiction, like a literary fiction, and very like strong banter, witty dialogue, and she has a lot of internal dialogue in her stories as well. And the focus is not always on the romance. Like, there's other circumstances outside of the romance. But anyway, Augustus and January just have this really wonderful connection. And I think one of the reasons why I love this book so much is they're both writers, and they kind of switch places and write the other person's genre. And so I really love how much time that these two get to spend together. And these two know each other. They know of each other, but it's been a long time since they've seen each other, been around one another. But the romance was just so swoony, and all the things that I love about romance. It's kind of hard to describe exactly why I love this book so much. She has such a way with words and describing things so perfectly that makes me really understand exactly what the character is feeling, what they're going through. She's just a wordsmith, and she does such a good job of just perfectly giving me this picture of exactly what the characters feel, mean, what they're going through. And I don't know, it creates such a unique journey that we go on with her books. And I just kind of trust Emily Henry to take me on whatever journey that she wants to take us on. The love story is my favorite, and Augustus and January is one of my favorites. Just very relatable, down-to-earth romance. It really is just such a beautiful book. And this book has so many quotable moments, quotes in a romance book. I mean, like I said, she's just truly a wordsmith. Next is Kiss the Sky by Kristen Ritchie. First and foremost, I love the Addicted series. I am an Addicted series girly. But specifically, Kiss the Sky is my favorite. Now, I also haven't finished the series because I don't want to. I need to. It is actually embarrassing that I haven't finished it at this point. But I really enjoyed, up until this point, we'd only read Lily and Lowe. But man, when we got to my favorites, Connor and Rose, it just changed the game for me. They are just one of my favorite couples, from a standpoint of they have such an interesting relationship and such an interesting dynamic that I think is so fun and sexy and just uniquely Rose and Connor. They literally just like speak their own language. They're in their own little world together, but they go on such a interesting journey that these two really have to like trust one another, kind of open up, and that which is hard for like Rose. And Connor is, you know, he's so arrogant and he's such a know-it-all. And so to kind of see how he is with Rose is such an interesting thing to read about from like an outsider perspective. The love that they have for each other, like they would do anything for each other, and they would do anything for the people that they love as well. Anybody in their own group they love. And they really don't really care or love anybody else other than their people. And I personally really love that about their relationship. I like how they have their own little way of showing the other person that they love each other, and they challenge each other constantly, and they're always trying to beat each other, but when the chips fall, they're down for each other. Like, they are ride or die. So now we have Elanor Grey by Britney Cherry. So I love Britney Cherry, and I had to kind of mention my first book that I read by her, which is a second chance romance. It is one of my favorite second chance romances. Like, I read this before I really liked second chance romances, and it's hard when I read another one because honestly, this is one of the best ones. This is a blueprint for a second chance romance, in my opinion. But this is just the first book that I really fell in love with Britney Cherry's writing. Just very beautiful, all-consuming kind of writing that makes me not want to put the book down because I'm so connected with this story and with these characters. And I really like the way that she wrote this book. You know, half of the book is told in the past when they're teenagers, which some people won't really like about this, but I liked it. And the second part of the book is them as adults and they're reconnecting, and you just really get this well-rounded story. Like, I feel like I went on this journey with these characters, which is why I like books that kind of take us throughout their years together, because I just feel so fulfilled. I feel like I really got to sink my teeth into the story and to these characters, and I really have a good understanding of them as characters, but also as two people who love each other. And I really loved reading about these two people reconnecting and falling in love, and it's a heartbreaking journey, but I loved it nonetheless, and it's just a standout book for me by Britney Cherry. So next, one of the most epic books ever, and that is Akimov. I mean, the entire ACOTAR series, like, we can count those, but I just specifically wanted to talk about Akimov. This is really this is the first fantasy series that I fell in love with. I read From Blood and Ash, and I remember I was talking to one of my friends, and I was like, I love that book, nothing can compare. And she was like, wait till you read ACOTAR. You're gonna eat your words, and I did. Gosh, this book, I really liked, well, I didn't love ACOTAR, I thought it was fine. But then I read Akimov, and I was like, I don't get it. Like, everyone's like, oh, Akimov is the book, and it's true. This book just kind of like changed the game for the series. I mean, when you think about it, the way that Sarah J. Maas wrote ACOTAR, like, she's really building up to Akimov, and it was perfect. Like, I have not reread ACOTAR since I read it a couple years ago, but I will, and I will say that I would probably like ACOTAR a lot more now, knowing what she did in Akimov. It's just truly such a fun and epic ride. Like, this book truly shocked me, twists and turns, and she turned some things on its head and turned some stereotypes on its head as well, and just took us on this really epic journey. And, you know, we really dive into like mental health in this book and trauma, and it's like everything that I love in a fantasy romance. And it's full of action, but also we have this amazing found family in this book as well, and we just get so much insight into things that she was hinting at or building up to, but it just came together so flawlessly and just created the most perfect book, and honestly one of the best reading experiences. So next we have Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. So Lisa Kleypas is my favorite historical romance author. This book is just so wonderful. We basically have Evie, who is being forced by her family to marry someone that she doesn't want to marry. And she knows that Sebastian, our hero, needs someone rich to marry. Now, Sebastian is a rake. Like, this is just definitely like a marriage of convenience. But these two fall in love, and oh gosh, there's so many wonderful things I love about this book. Sebastian melting for Evie. Sebastian is a villain throughout the series. He's like a bad guy. And seeing him melt for Evie, like, was just so beautiful and touching. But also to see Evie grow as a woman and really come into her own as a woman without her family forcing her and just, you know, always in her ear. I love that. I like that both of them were able to bring out something in the other person that was good. You know, Evie pulled out this really good human side of Sebastian, and Sebastian pulled out this independent, strong woman that Evie always was, and both of them can feel safe with each other to do that. So next we have Heartless by Elsie Silver. So I actually recently met Elsie Silver like a couple weeks ago, and she was so wonderful, and it was just so nice to meet one of my favorite authors. She's written one of the best books ever. This book is Single Dad, Nanny Romance, which those are my two, like if I hear that those things are in a book, I'm reading it. I don't know what it is about those two tropes that just never gets old, and when combined, it's just perfection. But this one really set the bar high for that trope. I think why I love this book so much is just that it's perfect. It is everything that I want in a romance. It is sexy, and it's like also emotional, but heartwarming and funny. And gosh, I loved it. And I loved seeing Willa connect with Cade's son, and I loved seeing Cade just really start to warm up, because he's a grumpy guy. But seeing him just slowly start to let down his walls for Willa. Elsie put her whole heart and soul into this book, and it really shows. This is like a universally loved book. Like if you don't love Heartless, something's wrong with you. You're a little bit of a weirdo, because this is just, to me, like one of the best contemporary romances that I've read, and definitely one of the best book in the Chestnut Spring series. But like Willa and Cade have just cemented themselves to me as one of my favorite couples of all time. So next we have A Love Letter to Whiskey. We're kind of taking it back. I read this book years ago, and yeah, I haven't forgotten about A Love Letter to Whiskey. This is like OG good old angst and toxicity at its finest, at its best. And I love this book. It's Candy Steiner at her best as well. I just like been trying to figure out why I love this book so much, and why it has truly, after all these years, because I read this one like what, in 2018 or something, or 19, like why it has stuck with me so much. I mean, I love angsty, toxic romances. I love all of that good stuff, but I think, like I said earlier, I really like to read about, I really like to read romances that span many years. I just really like to go through the fire with these couples and these romances. Like I love to go through it with them, and I love to see how it's going to end. This is the definition of like all-consuming romance. Like when I say I want an all-consuming romance, this is what I'm talking about. Cannot put this book down. I literally was like, how are we going to get to an AGA? Like there were just so many obstacles thrown in their way. Sometimes it was themselves, and then sometimes it was life circumstances. And I was just like, how are we going to get through this? What are we going to do? But this really made it worth it to go through. And it was just such a beautiful journey to get there. But man, it was heartbreaking, and it was frustrating, and it was like made you want to throw the book or your Kindle or whatever across the room. But it is an experience that I have never and haven't forgotten. And this is just a book and a story that has stayed with me many, many years. Next, we have Inevitable Conclusions by Christina C. Jones. So, of course, I had to pick a book by Christina C. Jones because she's my queen of Black romance. I just absolutely love Christina C. Jones so much. She's written so many books that just make me feel represented, and as a woman and as a Black woman, and she only writes Black romances, so it was hard to choose one. But I went with Inevitable Conclusion. I went through a phase of not really liking Friends to Lovers, and as you can see, I love Friends to Lovers now. But I went through many, like a time when I didn't really like them. But this is one of those books that I read, and I was like, okay, Friends to Lovers is like superior. I think what I love so much about this book is these two people are best friends, and they've known each other for a long time. They did date once a time, you know, many years ago, but it just didn't work out. And so they just decided to be friends, and they are really great friends who sometimes hook up and maybe sometimes care about each other in less of a friendly way. But they have already tried that, you know, they've already tried to be together and it didn't work out. But now they're older, it's a different time, and they both are in a better place in their lives to where they can see what could possibly happen. But I love this book, and this book definitely deals with some tough topics. Like near the end of the book, there's some things that come up about our characters and their backgrounds that was heartbreaking and sad. And I loved how we really got to see how much these two really care for each other and how much they've gone through for each other and just how much they belong together. But I love this book. It's a top tier friends to lovers romance, and definitely my favorite by Kristen C. Jones. So next we have Restore Me by J.L. Seekers. So this book is like everything that I want. It's just sexy and it is angsty, oh my gosh, and just everything that I want in a romance is this right here. But this is my first J.L. Seekers book that I ever read, and I fell in love with her writing. Just like beautiful, beautiful writing, and just writing that I completely got lost in. And I loved Sloane and Dominic's story. I love a hero who's obsessed with the heroine and just like can't get enough of her and wants her so badly and has been pining for her. Pining, longing, all those things. I love that. But I loved Sloane and Dominic. Just a very emotional, angsty romance that took me on such a wild journey. It's a thick boy. This is a thick book. This is a big boy, okay? But it took me through the ringer, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. I love this book so much, and Sloane and Dominic are just two of my favorites, and their story is just such a beautiful journey. So next we have the 7-Year Slip. This is a newer release and a new book that I have recently fallen in love with. I read this book like around the time it came out, and this is one of those books that I just read at the perfect time. I just connected with the story in such a beautiful way. I think that this author is such a fantastic writer. If you like Emily Henry, then I think you'd like Ashley Poston as well. They have very similar writing styles to me, and just the way that they craft their stories. But Ashley Poston is so creative. Like, she writes very unique love stories and romances. This is a book that I just really enjoyed the ride. I just really enjoyed every minute of this book, and I just kind of took my time with them, and I really just soaked in this story as much as I can. Sometimes I tend to read books fast and I don't really comprehend everything, or I just move on to the next one. But this is not one of those stories. I just really connected with the story in many different ways for different reasons. And I really loved this love story, but I also really liked the story itself. It's very interesting. It's very unique. And I honestly will just read anything that this woman writes, because this is a really special story. And if you haven't read this one yet, then you absolutely have to. If you want to experience excellent writing and really wonderful storytelling and a really swoony romance, then like you have to read this book if you haven't read it yet. Right Move by Liz Tom Ford, also a recent favorite, one that I fell in love with this year. I don't even know what to say. I love Ryan Shea. I saw how y'all pretty much threw him away after reading Kai's book from Caught Up. I love Kai, but I'm a loyal woman, okay? And I fell in love with Ryan Shea first, and he has my heart first. So I love this book for many different reasons, and I've talked a lot about this book on my channel. But I think I just really, first of all, I really enjoy the setup. I enjoy the characters, but I really love the journey that these two go on. You know, Indy was in this relationship that lasted way too long, and she was with a man who did not appreciate her, devalued her, and it kind of made her think lesser of herself. He really dimmed her sparkle. And so Ryan brings out that side of her, and he treats her the way that she deserves to be treated, and he really values her, and he wants her to shine so bright, even if it's brighter than him. And Indy also has to kind of build up her confidence as a woman and as an individual as well. And then Ryan, he has been through a lot, and his way of coping with what he went through is, I'm just gonna focus on basketball. That's like all I am. And he doesn't really let anyone else see the deeper sides of him and who he is as a human being, and just this layered person that he is. And Indy brings that out in him. You know, she brings out this playful, funny side of Ryan that not many people get to experience. She just kind of brings life back into his life and light into his life, because he has been in darkness for a long time. And both of them have what the other person needs, and they just balance each other out so well. And oh gosh, I just really love this story. It's just one of the best contemporary romances that I've read, and definitely one of the best ones I've read this year. I just can't get enough of Ryan, and indeed they have a very special place in my heart. So next we have Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. So I actually read this book this year, and I'm so glad that I read it when I did, because I kind of got to read it at a time when it wasn't crazy hyped, and I just kind of got to enjoy it for myself and kind of go into it with my own expectations, and this book really did blow me away. Jennifer Hartman really did such a fantastic job with this story. I can't even like describe what reading the first part of this book was like, but then we got to read the second part, and we got to see how they coped with what they went through, and we got to see them heal or didn't heal, and we got to just see them really go through it. I really liked how I got this full story. I felt so fulfilled by the end of this book, and there were times when I was like, how are we going to get through this, which I really love, because obviously we're going to get an HEA, but I like when a book can put me through the ringer, and the fact that I'm going to get an HEA out of it, it's worth it. But not only is the story wonderful, but this romance is epic. I mean, Cora and Dean were always meant to be, they were always meant to be together, but their journey is heartbreaking, and it's sad, and they really have to fight for each other and fight for themselves, literally. And at the end, I just felt so fulfilled. And girl, I had to end it with Birthday Girl by Pete Doug. I mean, everyone loves this book. If you don't like this book, then you're kind of like a weirdo. I'm just kidding. It's okay if you don't like it, but you just don't have that good taste. Just kidding. I mean, what to say about Birthday Girl other than, even if I read this book now, I think I would still really love it. Like, I think I should reread this book so I can, I mean, I want a Pike. You know, Penelope Douglas just set the standard, and I want a Pike. Where is he? I don't know. But I really love Jordan and Pike's story. This was one of the first books that I read that was like taboo and stuff, and I loved it. I really enjoyed their story, but I will just never forget the feeling that Birthday Girl gave me. It was like, it just made me feel giddy, and it was fun, and I loved it. It was just perfect. And I had to end it with this one, like I said, because I am the Birthday Girl. I haven't read any other books with Penelope Douglas. I'm just so afraid that I'm not gonna love anything else as much as I love Birthday Girl, but I need to get on it, and I need to rectify that immediately. That is it. We went through it with this video, y'all, because I finished it, and then I got makeup all over my teeth. It was just a mess. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. This was so much fun to film. It was just so fun to sit down and just talk about my favorite books. Any more books that I could have talked about, but these are just some that I really love. And this is a good one, a good mix of books that really describe kind of my reading taste and just like what I love. And yeah, thank you all so much. I really wanted to start my YouTube channel this year, and it has been so much fun, and I'm just really grateful that you all watch my videos and support me. It really means the world to me. It is something that I've gotten to check off this year, and I can't wait to see what 27 brings. It's going to be a good year. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all in my next video. Leave me like a little birthday emoji, whether it be like the little birthday thing, balloons, whatever, just to let me know that you've made it to the end of this video. All right, I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.